He's running Shudderwock Shaman, and he's going to be going up against what looks to be a Malygos Druid. So Shudderwock Shaman versus Malygos Druid here. Popping your way.
That's right. So we've seen a fair amount of Shudderwock Shamans so far this season, especially tonight as well. We've only seen one, which is the Demon Shaman, which didn't do too bad. And Falcone's just, throwing out there, rank 25 caster. That's fine. He doesn't have to put himself down too much, as he likes.
Well, I'm rank 26 caster, so don't worry about that, Falcone.
So I only get the top 5 so I can get my epic gold card just to keep myself happy, do you know what I mean?
So this is slightly favoured to Malygos Druid, 44%-ish or sort of that. So it's what you'd consider winnable for Shudderwock Shaman, but a small advantage lies in the hands for Coldhands here. I made a sort of awkward hand-related pun, but Twig of the World Tree comes down, he can start churning that off.
It's quite a risk using Mali Druid considering the meta at the moment, but it's definitely a very, very good matchup. It's more of a cannon matchup, especially for decks like this. But again, Will Falcone is gonna decide whether how soon or how early he can actually get that Shudderwock play. But of course, with Coldhands, it depends on when he'll get the cards, the ingredients he needs for his Malygos.
Well, he's certainly got the card draw, a little bit of the ramp, and he's actually in a pretty solid spot right now.
Yeah, it seems like Falcone is in a quite good spot so far. Got that chain gang down straight away, and of course,
he just wants to build
that shot.
Just to build a big board here, Falcone. Just generate pressure with board, get as many battle cries out as possible. He's got Grumble. He just needs to pick up something like his Shudderwock, and actually, he's picking up some of the core cards that will help him sort of head towards that late game. There is the option here for Coldhands to coin out Malfurion, although you probably want to save the coin for... Actually, no, would you want to save the coin? Why not just coin out?
Let's see.
I mean, the only thing I could think about saving the coin for was either coining out Alexstrasza or coining out Ultimate Infestation. But this turn doesn't look great for him. So he could either swipe and Wrath for draw. He could... that's about it. Swipe and Wrath for draw or coin out Malfurion, I think, is the two options I would consider.
Yeah, even with swipe, he can take out 2 minions, but of course they will get healed with something straight afterwards. But his Wrath probably wouldn't be too much of a bad play, but it's quite a tough decision. He's got the cards he needs. It just depends which ones are the most cost effective for him to continue with after the next turn.
I think swipe and Wrath of draw suits me.
Because there's not really too much more, of course, Falcone can play. But he will use that swipe anyway, and will do exactly what he said. So at least he's taking some of the pressure off him.
Oh, he's not even going to Wrath for draw. He's just going to Wrath for Wrath. Interesting. And now the Falcone can play Murmuring and also Sauronite, which generates another sort of more threatening board. And actually, this is constantly keeping pressure up on Coldhands here. This probably is just going to be a strict Malfurion turn, but it's actually looking like a pretty mental board for Coldhands to have to start to deal with.
Yeah, why have 2 chain games when you can have 3? And of course, even if it did save that swipe earlier, it wouldn't have made too much of an impact so far. So he's trying to figure out exactly what he can do. Falcone's got a fantastic board to continue this pressure on Coldhands before anything does happen.
He's still got quite a lot of HP to work with. Malfurion will give him some taunts, although we can see in Falcone's hand he has the Black Knight, which I think one of these taunts is probably going to be your best Black Knight target that you get in the game.
Yeah.
Just waiting here. I mean, if we somehow get to a point where we have Alexstrasza turn 9 and then you use the Twig and then you Ultimate Infestation, that's a really good swing turn. You just need to be worried about overfilling your hand. So I think he's going to start to dump his hand over the next couple of turns.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, really. And of course, at least those 2 1/5s meant to keep him at bay, save him any damage put to his face.
Yeah, it's not a bad Grumble, actually, because you can... It will fill your board. That's actually the problem. No, you will fill your board.
Yeah, he's just looking for card draws at the moment. Hopefully that Shadow will come later on in the matchup. But it depends exactly what he's going to do from here. Still not looking too great, but you can see from here, he can coin out Alexstrasza, but I'm thinking whether it might be too early.
I think you No, you won't coin it out because I think you want Alexstrasza the same turn that you use your ultimate infestation.
Yeah.
So this turn feels like you need to empty your hand. I would Ferocious Howl to get some armor. I'd probably use my Jasper Spellstone and maybe my branching. You don't want a branching path. That's the problem. You could branching path for armor. That's the alternative. But I feel like you probably want to try and drop your hand and actually swipe and Jasper doesn't sound so bad. Jasper first, I think, onto the Acolyte and then swipe.
Yeah, I think he's trying to decide how he wants to do this. Of course, he wants to try and avoid as much card draw as possible.
The problem if you drop swipe now, though, is you don't have any swipes to combo with your Malagos. But then, hopefully, you won't be looking for that. Hopefully, you're just going to be relying on your Moonfires or whatever.
Yeah, it might not be too bad. So it might just come to the point where you have to go to the late game to get that win condition.
Does feel like he's dropping excess resources on cleaning up Saranites, but he's very healthy. He's got 37 HP. Next turn, he's going to look to... well, actually, this is an interesting question because, yeah, Alexstrasza in Ultimate shouldn't fill his hand up too much, so actually that's not bad.
Yeah, you can get another Chain Gang on the board anyway, and of course he's got his Taunt Totem as well.
Oh, that's a really big pull there for Falcone. It's going to actually cut Coldhands' potential plan in half. And now he has to think about either just straight up Alexstrasza-ing, or he has to think about Coin Ultimate Infestationing. And the Coin Ultimate Infestation doesn't really do too much for him because you're not cleaning up the 7/7, which is your primary target. And Alexstrasza, if he does that straight up, then you have to worry about Hex. And actually, this is really, really good play from Falcone, and that's a good pull with the Glacial Shard there.
And speaking of Hex, of course, Falcone's had that for a while now, just keeping it safe in case he does play that card.
Yeah, impressed with that play from Falcone. He had the heads up to use the Grumble to make sure he was definitely going to get that Glacial Shard out of his deck because you only really run one of the double Battlecry Elementals. Naturalize comes out. That is going to mill some cards here for Falcone, I think. At least what it will do when it gets to next turn.
Yeah.
You don't want to drop Shudderwock here, though. If you drop Shudderwock here, that's a real feels bad, man.
Yeah, that would literally be a GG. But even losing one of the hexes is... it's not massive, but I think it's quite big in terms of any other big minions he actually plays later on. So now...
This is going to feel bad.
It will. It will. As soon as he plays that, he's just going to... I'm interested to see how he reacts when he does play that.
Yeah, that was a good pull. And I mean, yeah. it is definitely... It's not what you want to see. It's... you hate to see it.
Yep, you hate to see it.
You invested so many turns into your Twig of the World tree, and then it just get oozed when you have 10 mana crystals anyway. And now Falcone can start to pump out the board once more. Ultimate Infestation will give some card draw love back towards Coldhands, but he no longer has... He's double Infestation in hand, but he no longer has that potential to A, combo your Alexstrasza with the Ultimate Infestation, and B, Malagos, use the Twig, and then get a huge burst of damage down. So, tough position for Coldhands. It's not unwinnable for him. He can still use the Malagos double Moonfire, but it's definitely worse than where he wanted to be, I think.
Yeah, at least he's got the Plague for later on as well, depending on how many minions Falcone has left. He can play that just to delay things even further, but that Mana Tide, at least we'll get a few extra cards going.
Falcone's still waiting for his Shudderwock draw. And Coldhands has got things like his Spreading Plague in hand, so if the board is big enough, Spreading Plague will definitely be an option for him, but Falcone very happy to just clear up everything and start playing more card draw, playing the Mana Tide Totem, just trying to get through his deck before he picks up that Shudderwock, because he's actually primed the Shudderwock pretty much perfectly now, so...
Yeah, it's just a matter of when he gets it. Of course, he does have that Farsight, and if he gets that Shudderwock, that'll be fantastic, because he will still have 7 mana left, he can play that. And he's still got some AoEs in case he does use that Spreading Plague, but I don't know if he'll use it so early. He's still got a Lich King, of course.
Well, the Spreading Plague and Branching Paths is always a good combination. In case the board gets too big, you can respond with a board full of 3/5s, essentially. So that's not a bad place to be in. I feel like this turn is likely just going to be Lich King and then Hero Power.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him, to be fair. He wants to play it safe, at least. Maybe a little bit too early, but...
Do you know what would be great? Death Coil from Lich King. Yeah, there we go.
What a time to get that as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes up for things like Swipe going.
Oh, okay. Maybe asking for too much. But, you know, he has Black Knight to take out Lich King straight away, but that death guy? I can't believe that. Of all the cards you could have got Van Lich King. Oh, dear.
Feels good, man. So now he just needs his Moonfires. And there's one. So we've got Malagos, Innovate, Death Coil, Moonfire. So Death Coil will deal 9 damage, Moonfire will deal 6. So that's pretty close. That's, I mean, you are looking close to causing an issue here. I feel like this isn't a situation now where you try and dig, and you just play Spreading Plague to try and you play Spreading Plague to sort of deny it a little bit more, and then you're looking for that combo. Although I do feel like you want to hit face. I mean, with your hero power eventually, because Hagatha is an issue. You know, that 5 armor will cause you a bit more pain than you need to go through.
Now that mana ties down, he can use Hagatha if he likes. Finally!
There's the Shudderwock, finally.
He actually manages to get it now. And of course, Coldhands wanted to use that play just to delay things further.
And you can see Falcone is a little bit conflicted about what to do. And Hagatha is an option. So Shudderwock's going to come down, though. He has got a very good Shudderwock, and it's going to start up the churning.
Yeah, because Coldhands isn't actually too far from what he actually needs.
That's the problem, though. It is going to be the life drinker. The Grumble comes through, and now you're going to... Oh, he does... Actually, that's really big, because that's actually big, because Grumble hasn't brought Shudderwock back. That's the only Shudderwock that Falcone's going to get. That's unlucky, because that's now no Shudderwocks left. You just have to deal with this board. You just have to deal with this board, and if you deal with these Shudderwocks, that's the only Shudderwocks Falcone's going to get.
And another play, but this is the problem he's going to have now, is the fact that, yeah, sure, fair enough, but with the Shudderwocks he has, can't bring any back. But at least he's got a Hagatha to kind of help the momentum to like go in his favour, but then again, there's not really much time left for Falcone until he ends this.
Mm-hmm. You can't get the Faceless Manipulator play off on the Malagos easily. How many hexes have we seen? That's something that Coldhands will be trying to think about. I think we've seen one for sure. Yeah,
he's played one against the Alexstrasza, and then he burnt one earlier.
Oh, he burnt a hex earlier.
Yeah.
So if Coldhands has been keeping hold of that, he might realize that there's very few ways for Falcone to actually deal with the Malagos, and then he could Malagos and then chance it, go to the next turn, then Faceless, and then win the game. So that's an option for him to consider, although I think he'll be looking for primarily the strict route of just now going down the Malagos, Innovate, Death Coil, Double Moonfire play, which will deal 21 damage total, I believe. Oh no, 22 damage total. So that would be exactly lethal onto Falcone with just one more pickup of the... one more pickup of the Moonfire.
And even though it does have that nourish, he's trying to get...
Oh, Falcone's face did exactly what my face did right there.
What's that?
Raised his eyebrows at the not giving them the +1 attack. So he went... So I think Falcone must realize he's searching for a very important card for his combo.
Yeah. But at least he brings one of the plays to him anyway. We'll take rest of the 4.
I mean, actually, Falcone could have Hagathed there. Didn't. Now sets up lethal for next turn. And Coldhands now, if he draws a Moonfire off the top, has exactly lethal.
Yeah, he's got those 2 nourishes, but of course...
That's not Falco.
Hmm?
Oh, sorry, it's a Smash Bros term.
Oh. I thought you were going to say something else. I was like, what are you about?
That's not Falco. And actually, Coldhands has now been left in the position where he needed that 1 card to win. He was desperately searching for it. He took the gamble on going for the single card draw with the +1 attack, realizing he might overdraw if he wasn't careful. And actually, he's just dead next turn because he's used both Spreading Plagues.
Yeah, there's literally nothing more he can do now. He's got to a point where he's delayed him enough. Both plagues are gone.
I think Falcone basically took the chance of, if he hasn't found the combo pieces yet, I'm probably pretty safe not playing Hagatha and just building a board that can kill him next turn. And that's exactly what Falcone's done, and he's been rewarded for it.
Yeah, it seems like Falcone just waiting to see if he does anything else, but...
Death is eternal.
From the look of Coldhands' position, it's not really too much to the extent. It's going to naturalise one anyway. As you can see now, there's not too much he can do. Apart from delaying things just a tiny bit further, maybe for one more turn, but could potentially have lethal here.
He's definitely got lethal. I think even without the Earthshock, he was pretty close there. So
yeah, he had Life Drinker as well on top of that. So he pretty much knew he was in the swing of things. So, yeah, well played by Falcone straight away in that first game.
Yeah, and he played it really, really well. Coldhands definitely had a singular out that was exactly lethal, and if he'd pulled the Moonfire, he would have punished Falcone. But Falcone made a really, really calculated decision based on the fact that he saw him use. I mean, Spreading Plague, Branching Path is a combo that you use over and over again in the later stages of the game to get a board of 3/5s, which makes it difficult to punch through. Falcone saw him draw a card with the Branching Path after Spreading Plague and realized he must be looking for cards that are going to be part of the combo that will kill me. I'm probably quite safe. I mean, I'm judging the draw, but I'm probably quite safe.
No, you're right about that, because that's why I was using Plague so early, because it's just due to the fact that he had to delay him enough as much as possible. And you saw by then, in a full hand, he already had 2 Nourishes and an Infestation, which was going to make any use due to the fact that he would just have to end up burning his cards. It's just a matter of time, really, I think, for Falcone to even win that. Yeah,
the Nourishes would have been much better in Coldhands' hand earlier on, but Falcone takes the first, which is the Shudderwock Shaman. He was ever so slightly disfavored in that matchup, like we said. I think it was slightly in favor of the Malagos Druid by about 5% or so. So good win for him against the odds, and now he moves on to his next match, which I think, or deck. And I'm trying to think, he brought a Paladin, which we can assume will be Odd Paladin, because it's probably just the best deck in the meta right now, in terms of ladder wins anyway. And I'm trying to think what other deck he brought.
Well, speaking of the Paladin anyway, like, you know, I've seen some even Paladins as well, but the Odd Paladin has definitely been more in that high tier respect.
This is the aggressive Odd Paladin with the Blessing of Mites and the Leroy in it. And he's also got the Corridor Creeper in hand too. And now it's Monkey Cam.
Yeah, I was going to say, Falcone's not as well as changing decks, but changing things up a bit with his cam as well. So, but yeah, this is going to be interesting because, of course, with Coldhand as mage, it's just going to be a matter of time. But Falcone is going to want to try and maybe try and end this as quick as he can.
Yeah, he will definitely be putting pressure on. This actually is a matchup that is slightly favored for Odd Paladin, even though you'd think that Big Smell Mage has the tools to deal with it. Odd Paladin can just pump out so many dudes.
Yeah, and that's an understatement, especially when they get that cleaver as well. And what we're going to see at the moment is, of course, in this matchup, Falcone is going to try and be, not try and be as aggressive as possible, but trying to be as, it's going to be quite tough one because, of course, if Coldhands ever gets that hero power, it's going to be a tough one for Falcone, but it's going to play quite standard at the moment. He's not going to use any of his Blessing and Might so far, which is fair enough. It's still quite early days, but he does have that Stone Hill as well. So if he does use that Stone Hill and use the Blessing and Mights later on, then it probably won't make too much difference considering Coldhands' hero power.
Flame Strike in hand for Coldhands, also a Meteor. So those are 2 of the spells that you could pull with your Dragon's Fury. And he's now just going to Dude Up and Righteous Protector. And this is still just pumping out more and more pressure. Falcone then can convert this into Blessing and Might targets. He's also got Stonehill Defender. And this is the problem with the matchup versus the Odd Paladin. You just need to clear constantly. Even the hero power generates enough pressure for you to be concerned. And this is not a great situation. He's actually going to have to use the Polymorph straight up. And Falcone sort of says, haha. But there's nothing Coldhands can do.
I think he knew straight away from there on was the fact that, yeah, it's a shame, missed off by just 1 mana. But you got to remember the fact that in terms of AoE, you know, that Meteor's not going to come till turn 6, of course. Flame Strike's going to be way too late. I
feel like you have to Dragon Fury here because if Level Up comes on turn 5, which is obviously something that you always consider, then you're just donezoed.
Yeah, it's looking that way now. I think Falcone knew straight away that as soon as Coldhands used that Polymorph, it doesn't have too much to play with in that retrospect.
You just have to play Dragon's Fury because you can't risk getting leveled up, and Falcone knows. Like, look at him, he's got a little smiling face. He's saying he's having to Dragon's Fury a border 1/1, so that is what Odd Paladin makes you do. And now Falcone has the option of playing Corridor Creeper. He's got Stonehill. He's got to refill with more dudes. And this is another big board built up in an instant for 5 mana, almost equal, if not more, in power for Coldhands to deal with.
And that's the main thing as well, as the fact that he's got that level up ready and waiting. So it's just a matter of when he wants to use it, how greedy he wants to be in terms of making those silver hands as effective as possible. But
I mean, this is about as good as you get with like Gluttonous Ooze and a Stonehill, I think. It's not a great turn for Meteor because, as you would expect, Falcone played around Meteor placement by having his Corridor Creeper right on the left-hand side.
But even if Falcone does use level up next turn, yes, sure, he'll do some damage, but of course, Coldhands does have that Flame Strike behind him. But we'll play that Stone Hill anyway. We'll be saving that meteor in case he does get into a little bit of trouble. But so far, Falcone's got some decent cards in his hand right now to complement his Sylvan recruits.
And Falcone has got a good turn for Lost in the Jungle and level up if he wants to do it, but doesn't want to commit too hard just yet. And he's going to give all of his minions +1 attack, which is great position for him to be in. And Coldhands has got Flame Strike. I think he didn't level up because of the pressure of Flame Strike, and he's just going to happy to have 2 1s and a 3/5 on board, which is going to force a Flame Strike, but leave him with the 3/1 and the weapons. So honestly, Coldhands having to burn a lot of removal just for, you know.
No, that was a great play. He knew that it's been a while in this matchup. He's bound to have Flame Strike at some point. He's probably realised that he hasn't used that card since the beginning. So he's probably had a feeling that that Flame Strike probably is hovering around there somewhere. But now Coldhands has to think about it now, whether he wants to use Flame Strike now or maybe save it for later on in the matchup. But it's a very difficult one, because as you remember, if he doesn't use Flame Strike now or take out any of his board, he can just use it up the level up and have lethal.
And Coldhands will probably feel pretty bad about using Flame Strike, but he knows that he has to. And Falcone saw it coming, that's why he didn't use the level up, didn't want to waste that resource, and now can just refill again. Refill with another Corridor Creeper, refill with his hero power, refill with whatever you like. And with Double Blessing of Might, he's calculating. He is calculating the Double Blessing of Might right now.
Yeah, he's thinking about it. It's
too off, but he's close. And you just take Sunkeeper, right? Because Sunkeeper just basically gives you another win condition.
Yeah, and it needs something, if anything messes up in the future, I mean, he's got a second one in deck anyway. But he's just going to play it safe now, which is perfectly understandable. It's going to make him think that he hasn't really got too much else going. But Coldhands, you know, isn't silly. He knows that he's probably does have that level up, but it's just a matter of when he's going to use it. But he'll probably use it when he has that win, that win condition.
I think this is over for Coldhands. Nothing he can do here in this situation, and Falcone's going to get himself another win on the board. Very, I mean, it's a matchup that is difficult for big spell mage. If you have to burn those resources on fairly unthreatening boards, and he's desperately searching for some kind of out. There is a kind of okay meteor placement, but it's really not going to do much for him.
Yeah, it's like I said right at the beginning. With this deck as well, which Falcone is using, you need to try and take out the mage as fast as possible, because it's more of a like, you know, Coldhands could try and delay Inevitable as much as he can, but there's only so much he can do. Of course, he does have that meteor, but it's only going to take out 2, maybe 3 minions, depending on which ones he chooses. And of course, that Flame Strike's gone now, so he knows that there's a potential chance that Falcone will have at least 1 level up by now. And of course, like you mentioned before, 2 Blessings of Mights, you know, you can't go wrong there.
He's going to try his best with the Militia, but with the Blessing of Mights, this is over. Falcone is going to secure himself his 2nd win in this series, and it's going to be up to Coldhands to try and reverse sweep Falcone's last deck, which I can't quite remember what it was, but Falcone going to clean up with the... he had so many different outs here, and it's going to be an easy pickup.
Yeah, we literally had 3 different outs then straight afterwards, so he was in a very comfortable spot. Sadly for Coldhands, it's very hard to hold Odd Pally back, especially with that Spell Mage as well. But, you know, fantastic job so far, 2-0. Just
going to get production to confirm the final deck Falcone has. Can I just get it? I'm just going to get them to confirm.
Oh, that's fair enough. But no, they did, like, you could see that from the from Falcone. I wasn't actually expecting him to have...
It's Warlock. Yeah, see what I did there? Just sent a little message out to the guys. It said, I can't remember. Can you fill it in for me? It is going to be Warlock. And like we've said previously, if there is a deck in Hearthstone right now, or an arc, or even just a class in Hearthstone right now that's going to get you a win over the course of 3, Warlock's a really good shout. Has good matchups against a lot of other decks.
Yeah, considering what Warlock it could be, it's a good all-round deck. It's an all-rounder, you could say, in terms of like exactly what they want to play. So if there's any last deck Falcone wants, of course it can be that Warlock deck. If he had any of the other 2, then it would depend on the situation. But yeah, so far he's in a very good spot for potentially having that clean sweep. But it depends which deck Coldhands snaps up next.
We'll have to see. Again, it doesn't really matter for him. He has to win with all of them, so you can just literally just pick whatever one you want. You might as well pick your worst matchup into Warlock and play it, because you've got to win with it eventually, right? So
yeah. No, that's true in itself, but we were speaking about before, because it's a shame, because that matchup for Mage can be a bit of a pain, but lucky for him, he came out okay in the end, considering the AoEs he had wasn't the best, and didn't get a decent one until we had that Flame Strike anyway.
So he's going to play the big Smell Mage into what looks like even Warlock here for Falcone, and this is the best. This is probably the best matchup he's got. 60% favored for the big Spell Mage.
Yeah, and of course he's got that Mountain Giant to start off with, which, you know, can't complain with that, and of course with that Reaver as well to complement it, depending on how often he taps or does damage to himself. But that Doomsayer...
No, it's not going to do too much in this matchup.
No, not really.
I'll tell you what is good. Coldhands has got a polymorph for Falcone's Mountain Giant, which is really important. A bit like the Naturalize for the Druid in this matchup.
That's right. And of course he's got the Dole on top of that, so at any time he needs to take out the Giant or the Reaver if it gets to that point. Then he can take out both straight off the bat. But lucky for Coldhands, Maz get Meteor anyway.
Yeah, he's got Meteor. He's got plenty of ways of dealing with what Falcone's bringing to the table here. Homunculus will deal with the 2-2, and obviously Falcone next turn has got the option to play the Giant. But as we can see, Coldhands has got plenty of options. He's got Voodoo plus Hero Power, and later on he's got Polymorph, he's got Dragon's Fury. This is a better hand to have versus the even Warlock. Yeah,
it's a shame he didn't have that, that Blizzard last game, but yeah, that's right. So of course, he's got the Dole and Hero Power, he's got the Polymorph as well, and if anything does get a bit out of hand, he's got the Blizzard, and maybe even the Meteor, depending on how big the minion is, but even afterwards, he has that Lich King on top of that.
Yeah, I think this is a matchup that I think Coldhands, just from this hand state, is going to be pretty favoured in.
But right now, here's the thing what we can do. Gets another Mountain Giant anyway. So early on as well, which can't be too bad. But here's the thing about putting that Doomsayer down. I assume he will just at least take out the rest of the minions. It's hard to play. Like, you could always put that Mountain Giant down, but he will be worried that that Polymorph and of course that Dole will be in hand. But lucky for him, that Mirror Entity, Falcone would be happy with that one.
Yeah, I mean, Coldhands probably isn't too fussed about losing a board at this stage in the game. I mean, this is not where Big Spell Mage wins. Big Spell Mage just plays lots of stalling spells.
Yeah, more of a plays a lot of fatigue.
Yeah, he didn't even ping face, by the way. I guess just a little bit worried about putting him down closer to Hooked Reaver territory. And there comes the Mountain Giant. This is probably where we see the Meteor. With the, not the Meteor, sorry, the Voodoo Doll, or you could have done the Polymorph. But both of which are fine. Meteor dealt with it next turn as well. It's got another Voodoo Doll in hand. Loads of ways of dealing with the big dudes that Falcone can start to put out.
That's right, and even if he did put that Mountain Giant down again earlier, that would have got Polymorph. So I think he's just playing it safe, just to play something else, just to bait out any more spells from Coldhands' hands. Oh, I like that pun there.
I like it. did well. It was a tough one, but you found it.
Oh, cheers, mate.
This could be a multitude of things. He could use a Dragon's Fury. He could just use Meteor. I think Meteor is okay because you've got things to deal with the other big boys like Mountain Giant, like the Polymorph. So I think Meteor's Dragon's Fury is also good.
Yeah, he's got another Voodoo Doll anyway, which is quite convenient, you could say. But he will be getting that Tyrant down, of course. But now we're going to see exactly how Coldhands will deal with Falcone's next matchup. So as you can see, he's still got that Mountain Giant in there. Of course, that Reaver won't be played for at least another couple of turns, but at least he's got a Twilight Drake, at least something to deal with, not only the other minion, but just to be a thorn in Coldhands' chair.
Coldhands' chair?
Yeah.
Not side.
Side, yeah. So, almost, well, if it's on the chair, then that kind of affects him, doesn't it?
I'm going to take that phrase with me. Thank you. I like it.
Cheers,
so 410 Twilight Drake. This is an interesting one for Coldhands because it's something that you can meteor, but if you meteor it, it's not exactly attack-wise threatening. And you're thinking in the back of your mind, there's Lich King, there's Hooked Reavers, there's another Mountain Giant. I want to try and save some of my removal for that. So that's probably where Coldhands is sort of reflecting on in his own mind. Do I want to use some of my hard removal for a Twilight Drake? It's a 410, it's a beefy Twilight Drake, but do I want to use my removal for that when I should be keeping in the back of my mind that Falcone is going to pump out threat after threat? And speaking of, we've seen some terrible even Warlock hands over the course of today. This is a really good even Warlock hand. I mean, Falcone's had everything that you'd want. Twilight Drakes, Mountain Giants, he's got Hooked Reavers, Lich King, he's even got Blood Reaver Gul'dan. And I think this is probably the best play that Coldhands could have made. Just playing the Geddon makes it difficult for Falcone to deal with. Would have to probably kill off his own Twilight Drake to deal with that, and it's not exactly hard removal. And you're not going to get that much value out of Baron Geddon in this matchup anyway.
Yeah, there wasn't really too much you can do. Of course, Falcone's only down to 12 HP, so he's going to try and... I assume he will hit the Baron Geddon, of course, the Hellfire as well. But it's like you mentioned before, he's had both Mountain Giants already. He still hasn't played the second one. He's got a Reaver, which is now at least of some use, but it seems like for there, he will be healing his Twilight Drake anyway. And we'll be using a Defile. So I think that's another great play, but he's got to be really careful at this point, considering the circumstances in. But at least now that with the Reaver, he can use that in his next turn or the turn after.
So Coldhands actually gets a decent Blizzard off here because it clears the board. And in this matchup, your Blizzards are not going to have the most effect in the world. I mean, they're good at stalling out a turn against the big boys, but this Blizzard actually gets you some value. Playing Lich King, whilst it feels like a good idea, does just get traded up really nicely for Falcone. So you probably aren't playing Blizzard this turn. The other option that you have is pinging and then just chilling with the 4-2.
What's that, ping and chill?
Ping and chill, yeah. But it does leave the 4-2.
Yeah, that's the only problem he's going to have so far, but seems like he will be doing exactly that. Coldhands is in a good position to relax a little bit. He does have to go too overboard with his spells. It's a good thing that he has saved his Polymorph, his Blood, and of course his Meteors so far, but he may have to start using it at some point, considering he's thrown that Reaver and that Mountain Giant down.
And that's a big boy board. Options lie open for Coldhands. He could Dragon's Fury, but doesn't do too much. The Meteor works okay. You could also Blizzard and Doomsayer. I think Blizzard and Doomsayer seems like a good plan from my end anyway.
I was thinking about the Blizzard Doomsayer, but I was a little bit worried in terms of how effective it would be. But it seems like he will do that anyway. Of course, the whole point of Blizzard is just to delay your opponent as much as possible, or any ball clears, depending on what kind of minions you're going to be up against. But that seems like the most cost-effective way of actually taking out both the Reaver and the Mountain Giant by Coldhands.
I'm going to look at the Falcone thinking about his options here. Not an easy way of dealing with the Doomsayer. It also stops a good Blood Reaver Gul'dan turn. I don't know how many demons have actually died for Falcone, though. I think it might just be the homunculus.
Yeah, so if it's after this, it will probably just be a couple. So he hasn't really got too much play. He may have to let this one go, but he wants to really think about this thoroughly to see if he can get anything else. But just like that, he gets a Spellbreaker.
Spellbreaker's a brilliant pickup.
Tap into to silence? Yeah, why not?
Off the top, I mean, he could do multiple things. He could unfreeze his giant and trade in. I mean, I would just do that because it gets rid of the body, I guess.
Yeah, it'd probably make more sense if he does do that, because at least that way it's one less thing to worry about. But yeah, what a card to have anything he could have tapped into as well.
And actually, one of the problems that Coldhands will have with this deck is, even though you're at 10 HP for Falcone, you don't really run much direct damage.
No, he's had that problem for the last few turns as well, of course. The only other mini he does have is Lich King, and even if he does want to take the others out, you know, he does have a polymorph, he has a second Doll on top of that, he does have the Meteor, so you can keep him back, but the question is how long can he keep him back for? Because look at Falcone's hand so far, he's still got a Lich King, he's still got a Blood Reaver on top of that, and a Black Knight for any taunts, which of course Coldhands has for that Lich King, so he's got a lot of viable ways to take out anything Coldhands has, but of course refill the board with.
Dragon's Fury is probably his best option. He hits high, and that is the ideal scenario for Coldhands. Clears off the board, but Falcone has got options to refill here. He's got things like Black Knight, he's got things like Lich King.
Or second Reaver.
Second Reaver.
Why not?
I mean, this is not a bad set of hands for Falcone, if you have to ask me.
Yeah, and of course, thanks to that Dragonfire as well, Coldhands managed to save his Meteor and Polymorph. And again, that Doll, but you've got to remember with Coldhands, since he's got that Lich King, Falcone can simply just take that with his Black Knight on top of that. So it's going to be pretty hard for him. But he is strong in the thing about that Pitlock, which he does run anyway. He knows he can get away with it. Gets another Reaver on the board, and I assume he's going to put the Sunfury down just to protect himself just that little bit more.
Yeah, pop that Sunfury. And more problems for Coldhands to deal with. And again, plays around nicely with the Meteor.
There's not really too much he could have done in terms of that Sunfury anyway, because at this point in the game, it doesn't matter too much, but as you can see, even if he puts that Lich King down...
It gets traded into. Meteor here deals with the 7-7 and the 2-3, and then he could pop something like the Stonehill. See what he gets from that. Still, I mean, he's actually managed to get rid of a lot of Falcone's threats, and Falcone at 4 HP right now. And again, you are comfortable sitting at that amount of HP as the even Warlock versus this big Spell Mage, because big Spell Mage does really not run that much direct damage. I mean, and if Coldhands starts pinging Falcone's face, Falcone will just pop Blood Reaver. So it's, I mean, Falcone's in a comfortable spot even at this HP.
Yeah, at this point in the game, Coldhands is going to know that Falcone's got his Blood Reaver at some point, maybe even now. So him, yeah, you're right. Just him pinging is just going to make not too much difference. Once he gains that 5 armor, he's going to realise it'll be pointless even if he does attempt it. But he's trying to decide exactly what card he's going to get from that Stonehill to have any impact. There's another Stonehill.
He must have not had the best time in the world.
No, those cards were probably some of the worst he's ever had, and instead...
Gets a Sunwalker, which isn't bad. Actually, Sunwalker's not an awful draw here. So Falcone, now having seen a lot of removal, probably feels comfortable either playing Lich King or just playing Black Knight. As you can see here, we'll deal with one of these taunts. He could also just play Blood Reaver to give him that sort of 5 armor. He has killed off 2 demons. And in the even Warlock, you don't get too many demon kills unless you run something similar to Osha, where you run the Infernals.
I'd mainly use it right now for the armor and just for the hero power, because it's going to get to a point. But it's like you mentioned before, because the mage doesn't have too much damage on board or direct damage as a whole, there's only so much he can do. And even now with that Flame Strike, he can Flame Strike ping, but it's going to be a tough one. Falcone's
really been playing around Meteor still, even more so. He hasn't seen one yet, and I think he realizes that there's definitely a Meteor in the hand somewhere. I probably even knows it's that sort of leftmost card. Lich King comes down, as you've just seen the Black Knight get dropped, and Coldhands very happy to now just play that and start generating some pressure. So even though Falcone's been making really good plays, hasn't actually been moving towards a win very easily. And actually, wait a second. I like this from Falcone. That was really clever. Knew the Lich King could have drawn something like Death Coil. He knew that there was a potential for the kill there. And he's going to play the Blood Reaver at exactly the right time. Really good play from Falcone. Heads up to know that you would just die to Death Coil if it came out. And obviously you don't want to play the chance game in this scenario. You are just 1 win away from taking the series. And now the pressure's back on Coldhands.
Yeah, that was such a shame as well. Of course, the trade-off as well to get those extra minions on the board was great for Falcone on top of that. And I think it's just, that was a fantastic play for Falcone, just knowing that that 5 damage could easily close things out. But now, I think Falcone could be a little bit more comfortable. At least with that hero power, he can start doing more direct damage to the mage. but at least get his heal back as well. So he's going to be in a lot more comfortable spot, I'd say.
Coldhands genuinely must be begging for his Death Knight card now. He needs to get Jaina on board soon, just because that hero power from Falcone will start to hurt. Like that hero power is going to start to chunk down. It will start to generate life back, and really at this point in time, if you're Coldhands, you're like, I need Jaina. I need to start pumping out elementals that heal me. And he is just going to Death Coil to generate some health back and deal with that Pit Lord right there. But, I mean, it's not Jaina, is it?
No, but it's a shame though, because he used his Death Knight on, I think, one of the Stone Hills earlier, and of course that's when the Lich King came in. But of course, did trade off nicely and get that Blood Reaver on board. So we have to try and see exactly how he'll try to come up with this. Falcone knows he's close, but it depends on what he wants to do next.
Falcone's just going to trade in. He can probably use the hero power and one of his 2 attack minions and then just pump 4 damage to the face. That's the most damage you can get on board right now, and the most damage you can get to face right now, so that's probably the best option for him. He's holding on to the Lich King. I think he realizes that, I think at some point you just have to accept that Lich King is going to get dealt with, and you can't hold on to it forever, right?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. He needs to put it down at some point. Now's probably the best time, and you never know. It depends exactly what he gets from his Lich King as well. It's a Death Coil, so yeah, they've had one each, but that's going to help Falcone a lot in this matchup, considering the circumstances he's in now.
That's not Jaina, but that is Blizzard. The Meteor's going to come down, deals with it. Falcone realized. I think he knew the Meteor was there regardless. He just knew that he had to play. I mean, he knew that he was holding on to it. He knew there were very few threats that he would use it on in his deck. How close are we here? I think he's going to start hellfiring for lethal at this point.
No, I think he's got lethal already, if I remember rightly.
No,
but
next turn. Next turn. But
of course.
But I think Coldhands realizes it. So Falcone's going to hellfire, Death Coil, and hero power for lethal next turn. And the only out, I think, for Coldhands is Jaina off the top.
Apologies. I actually thought we used the Hellfire previously, but does get another Stone Hill, but...
He could get a healing taunt. I can't remember what the healing taunts are, but I don't think any of them are heals, and I think Coldhands has realized.
Yeah.
The Hellfire on an empty board makes you very aware that Falcone is searching for lethal the following turn. And this should be, unless there is some miraculous taunt, which is not a quick pick, so I can assume that it's not. I think Coldhands just goes down to Falcone, 3-0 here.
Yes, I'm not going to lie, some surprising stuff. Just shows that, you know, Falcone has been doing some work whilst he's been casting other matches, but it just shows.
He has had the nuts, though. Falcone has had a lot of the nuts. There's the Death Coil, there's the hero power, and Falcone takes a 3-0 win in his ESL Premiership game. He looks happy to have it happen as well. He played really well, too. Honestly, I can't fault a lot of his plays. Particularly impressed. I mean, I was very impressed with the Blood Reaver after the Lich King, realizing that it was his way out of dying. Really like that. And honestly, very impressive stuff from Falcone. A 3-0 sweep for him. We've had a lot of 3-0s in the Premiership today.
Yeah, it's been quite surprising considering